Hi, biologists. In this screencast, we'll finish chapter 14 and our discussion of natural selection and adaptation. When we left off, we were talking about MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. MRSA came about as the result of beneficial mutation, natural selection, and evolution. Let's continue our discussion of evolution. First, we'll need to understand what fitness is. Fitness is an individual's reproductive success. The more offspring you have, the higher your fitness, and the higher the likelihood that you'll pass on your alleles to the next generation. In staph, alleles that conferred antibiotic resistance increase the fitness of certain strains like MRSA. The photo shows a mouse and its offspring. Mice have been evolutionarily successful because of their higher fitness. An organism's alleles, or genotype, determine its phenotype. For example, having two recessive alleles will produce a recessive phenotype. There's an interplay between phenotype and the environment that determine frequency of traits in a population. For example, if there's a scarcity of food, being able to travel farther or travel faster might be advantageous. If traits like this improve fitness, then the traits will become more common in the population. Because traits are coded by alleles, these allele frequencies will change, and by definition, this population will evolve. This diagram shows how a recessive allele for white fur and rabbits has decreased over 3 generations. By the 3rd generation, the allele for white fur has disappeared. Because allele frequencies have changed over time, we can say that evolution has occurred. Natural selection is also called survival of the fittest. It's defined as differential survival and reproduction of individuals within a population in response to environmental pressure. As a result of natural selection, advantageous traits become more common. And as these traits become more common, a population becomes better adapted to its environment. Remember, populations evolve, not individuals. Let me give you an example. A single adult giraffe will not evolve to become taller during its lifetime. A group of giraffes, however, can evolve to become taller on average over time. This infographic summarizes how antibiotic resistance came about as the result of natural selection. Antibiotics in the environment preferred strains of bacteria with antibiotic resistance. Over time, these bacteria survived and reproduced. They became more common, as well as the alleles that code for antibiotic resistance. Charles Darwin did not come up with the idea of evolution. He did come up with the idea for how it works. This is known as the theory of natural selection. Natural selection occurs in 4 general steps. The first step of natural selection is overproduction. In overproduction, each species produces more offspring than can survive. For example, 2 dogs can have a single litter of 6 puppies. All these puppies across all these dogs may not be able to survive in their environment. In this example, the tadpoles in these frog eggs are not all expected to survive to adulthood. The second step of natural selection is variation. Variation refers to each individual in a population having a unique combination of inherited traits. For example, all of the birds on this slide are pigeons of the same species. They're all different varieties of pigeons, each with a unique combination of inherited traits. The same goes for dogs. All dogs are members of the species Canis familiaris. Every dog breed has a unique combination of inherited traits. The third step of natural selection is competition. In competition, individuals will compete over limited resources. Competition for food, water, space, and mates is common and will differ from population to population or species to species. The photo shows two birds competing over a sand crab that they both want to eat. Elephant seals compete for mates, and male elephant seals will fight, sometimes to the death. The fourth and final step is selection. In selection, individuals with the best phenotypes will survive and reproduce. The diagram on this slide provides an example. The taller giraffes will be able to reach their food and survive. They'll go on to reproduce, while shorter giraffes perish. Charles Darwin visited the Galapagos Islands. On each of the islands, he found finches with different beaks adapted to different available diets. As a result of these observations, he developed his theory of natural selection. Before Charles Darwin, the ideas of Jean-Baptiste Lamarck were popular. Lamarck's explanation for evolution was called the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. He said that individuals could acquire characteristics during their lifetimes and pass them on to offspring. For example, giraffes might stretch their necks out and become taller. They would then have offspring with longer necks. Darwin came in and said, no, that's not how it would happen. Giraffes are born with different heights. Giraffes that are taller survive and have offspring with longer necks. Over time, giraffes as a group become taller on average. Lamarck and Darwin's ideas show how scientific understanding can evolve as well. Natural selection can occur in different ways and produce different patterns. One is called directional selection. In directional selection, the predominant phenotype shifts in a particular direction. This can be seen in the graph on this slide. Average antibiotic resistance increases after natural selection. The second type of natural selection is called stabilizing selection. In stabilizing selection, the middle or average is preferred over the extremes. One example is human birth weight. Low human birth weights might decrease chances of survival. High human birth weights might make the birthing process difficult. As a result, mid-range babies are favored over others. The third type of natural selection is called diversifying or disruptive selection. In this type of selection, the extremes are preferred over the middle or the average. An example might be birds living where there are small and large seeds. Birds with small beaks and large beaks are preferred over any birds with medium beaks. The chapter ends with tips for stopping the spread of superbugs like MRSA. These tips include washing or sanitizing hands, using antibiotics properly, keeping surfaces clean, researching new vaccines and new antibiotics, and reducing agricultural antibiotic use. This is a PSA produced by the NCAA and the CDC to help prevent the spread of MRSA infections. This infographic summarizes the tips provided for stopping the spread of superbugs.